So I am shopping at a large membership warehouse store with a 2-year-old, my daughter, which is basically like shopping with a fireball with legs. And the only chance I have to make it out of there without losing my sanity is to like hurl through the store with my cart, like mom NASCAR style, and just like, tear through the aisles, throw back a sample if I can get my hands on one, just try to get out before the child wants to escape the cart. And, as I'm going through, I get samples. She just refuses them. And we finally get to one. Someone is sharing cheese ravioli. And I throw mine back, and I throw it at my daughter, and she eats it. And so I stop, and I let her eat it. And the next fabulous thing that happens is the piece of paper, like the fluted cup thing that it came in, turns out to be a fantastic child distraction device. And I realized that if I could get another paper cup, I could keep her occupied and make it out of the store relatively intact. And so I turn to the sample lady and I say, my daughter loves your ravioli. I have already I've already gone to the fridge and collected my 7-pound bag of ravioli. She can see it in my cart. And I tell her, all I need really is just one more paper cup, and then I could be, she could be happy and I could make it through the store. And I'm really excited. I've figured out this solution. And she looks at me and she says, no, I'm not going to give you another paper cup. I said, but, and I just freeze. I'm so shocked that she won't give me a paper cup. And I'm thinking, I could have just taken it. If I had my wits about me, I could have just grabbed a second ravioli. It's not that complicated. I could have gone into professor mode and told her about the benefits of building good customer relations, or the economics of that single piece of paper cup is less than a penny, and I just committed to $15 worth of cheese ravioli. And I do nothing, because the thought in my head is, would she have said no to my husband, a nice Jewish boy from Chicago? I mean, maybe she would have. Maybe she's just a mean, nasty person. Maybe she was hungry, because I'm cranky when I'm hungry. And maybe she would have just said no to him. But the truth is, I don't believe it. I can't get the thought out of my mind that she said no to me because of the color of my skin. There's a fact about her that I haven't told you. I've withheld it for a reason. I haven't told you what the sample lady looked like. The sample lady was black. And when I told my South Asian friends about what happened, they said, yeah, that's happened to us too. When I told my black friend about it, she said, yeah, there's a lot of anger in my community. Maybe yours too? And when I told my white friend about it, she said, I'm so sorry. I didn't think two people of color would treat each other that way. And I thought, white people don't have a monopoly on racism. And I'm embarrassed to say this, because there's something else I have to be honest about. And that is that in my own community, there is a lot of anti-black racism. And I'm ashamed of it. And let me give you a couple of examples. Kamala Harris. So I remember talking to a family member about Kamala Harris, who is South Asian and black. And I said, oh, so amazing. She's running for president. She's one of us. She has the same name as my dad's sister. And this family member said, she's not really one of us. And I started to get ready to lay into this conversation, try to change her mind. And I flashed back to something that happened years ago with the same family member. You see, when I was in high school, another Indian girl I knew had a black boyfriend. And when her parents found out, she killed herself. At her funeral, people said it was for the best. This relative that I'm trying to talk to had been at that funeral and had agreed with the sentiment. And so I gave up. I gave up on her. I gave up on the conversation. I gave up trying to fix it. But I didn't give up absolutely. And I'll tell you why. After the 2016 election, I was telling a story somewhere. I was sharing about my own immigration story, about the fact that I had become undocumented and that I had been arrested and that I had come before an immigration judge with my family, and that immigration judge had simply looked at my family and seen that 3 of us were undocumented and my 7-year-old brother was a US citizen, and simply declared, well, he starts foster care today and the rest of you can go. That's a whole other story. I stand before you today a US citizen. But the truth is, when I was done with that story, I was leaving the facility, and as I was leaving, the security guard grabbed me, and he was holding onto my arm, and I started to shake. It's like, well, what did I do wrong? Am I in the wrong place? Am I going to set off an alarm? Is he just mad at me about something? And I looked at his face, and time absolutely froze. He looked at me, and he said, you know what? I have been so caught up with what it's been like for me to be a black man in America. It never occurred to me that it was hard for other people too. And I looked at him and I saw my arm in his, and I wondered, how did he get here? How did I get here? How are we connected now? And I remember among my ancestors is a woman named Nathima. She is my great-grandmother. I didn't know her name until I started to think about the story, and I had to WhatsApp my cousins to figure out who she was. See, the stories I've heard is that she was widowed very young and was left with 2 boys to raise by herself in India. As a widow in India, she was considered a burden and abandoned by her in-laws. Or maybe she wasn't. No one knows. Whatever happened, at some point, her in-laws decided that they were going to move from India to Kenya to see if their labor would be worth more from one British colony to another British colony. They didn't invite her. But on the last day, she realized what was happening, and she ran to the boat. She threw her 2 boys onto the boat, and in a desperate measure, she jumped onto that boat as well. Or maybe she didn't. No one really knows the story. I've only heard different versions from different people. Whatever happened, I was born in Kenya, the great-granddaughter of her older son. I look at my arm in his arm, and in the security guard's arm, and I realize that until this moment, I had only been another non-black person to him. Until this moment, he had only been like the sample lady to me. We look at each other, and there are tears in both of our eyes, and we do the only thing there is left to do. We hug each other. And I realize in the words of Martin Luther King, we may have come on different ships, but we are all in the same boat